You're listening to the Uptime Wind Energy Podcast, brought to you by BuildTurbines.com. Learn, train, and be a part of the clean energy revolution. Visit BuildTurbines.com today. Now here's your hosts, Alan Hall, Joel Saxum, Phil Totaro, and Rosemary Barnes.
Well, welcome to the Uptime Wind Energy Podcast. Joel and Rosemary, it's been an exciting week. A lot going on in America in regards to what's going to happen with the IRA bill. Nobody knows. It's like as tense can be. You don't even really see a lot of articles about it at the moment. Everybody's just in kind of hold mode, like hold your breath and hope something bad doesn't happen.
I think the interesting thing there is when something like this pops up, you would tend to see a lot of LinkedIn opinions, and you're not. I think a lot of people are kind of moved. They're kind of nobody's really saying too much. We're kind of waiting to see.
Yeah, waiting for that spicy take, usually from Rosemary. But she hasn't written that article yet. It must be coming. Rosemary?
Well, I haven't been writing a lot of anything on LinkedIn recently. A bit busy. I got really sick of LinkedIn as well when I overposted for a few months and got over it. Started to hate it when people would write a comment on my post. Yeah, and I'm like, just stop talking to me, go away. And I'm like, yeah, you were the one who made this post, so you. that was my sign to move away for a little while. Yeah, but it's also, it's not a topic that I am an expert in because obviously I don't live there, so I'm not. Yeah, I have heard a few podcasts talking about it. There's that one. Do you guys listen to that podcast? It's like the original Energy Gang crew, but none of them are on the Energy Gang anymore now. They've got their own new podcast. It's like Digger Shaw and the other two. Sorry, I don't remember their names.
They just started that one.
It's called Open Circuit.
Oh, maybe I have. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
It's really good. It's very it's too American central for me to listen to every episode, but for Americans, then I'm sure that's good. They speculate a fair bit about it, and also the podcast that has Jesse Jenkins on it, which is called Shift Key. They talk about it a bit as well. So I have heard a fair few takes on it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm waiting to see. To be honest, as a non-American, I've just written off American wind power for the next few years, and just like wait a little while till it gets started again. But it doesn't affect me so much. I don't have projects in America, so I'm not affected day to day.
I had a half a dozen part load leads that I was in hand you, but now I'm not gonna.
Do you know what though? It is actually incredibly challenging for me too, because Australians and probably every non-American, my business insurance will not cover me in the US. They just absolutely not. It is not possible for me to get insurance to do projects in the US, and it would only be possible if I actually started an American company. That would be the only way to do it. So that is a big disincentive for me to expand into America, just because your legal system is very, very different to the rest of the world. And insurance companies won't take that risk. So that's why I'm not expanding to America. But, the rest of the world is a big place. So
Well, if you don't spend all your time on LinkedIn, then maybe you can then join us on the webinar we're having up on Wednesday, May 28th at 11 a.m. East Coast US, and it's about lightning damage and lightning strikes, and it's another one of the monthly Sky Specs webinars with PES Wind and the Uptime Wind Energy Podcast. We have some really interesting guests in this one. Matthew Stead from Elogix Ping and Matt Segala from EDF. So if you know Matt Segala, he knows his way around blades and blade repair, and he has a really solid approaches on how to deal with the damage. That's going to be a great discussion. So if you have lightning damage, and pretty much every operator that I've talked to has some lightning damage at the moment, you're going to want to attend that webinar. It's free. So it's Wednesday, May 28th, 11 a.m. East Coast, and you just sign up in the show notes below. Really simple.
As busy wind energy professionals, staying informed is crucial. And let's face it, difficult. That's why the Uptime Podcast recommends PES Wind magazine. PES Wind offers a diverse range of in-depth articles and expert insights that dive into the most pressing issues facing our energy future. Whether you're an industry veteran or new to wind, PES Wind has the high quality content you need. Don't miss out. Visit peswind.com today.
So the big news of the week, well, there's actually a couple of big news articles this week. GEV Wind Power, which is a large repair company based in the UK, but they have a lot of their business in the United States, was acquired by a company called Certek. And Joel, just doing some research on Certek, it looks like a holding company. That's what it seems like to me. It's owned by David Harrison, who is based in the UK. And it just looks like they're going to continue to try to grow GEV, but it also includes Wind Power Lab from Denmark and RigCom from Australia.
Yeah, they grouped their Certek. I know that GEV Wind Power is, they have huge plans for growth, right? They've got the office in Dallas, office in Poland, the Wind Power Lab office in Copenhagen. RigCom office, I believe, is in Melbourne, down in Australia, down by Rosemary. And then they have, of course, the big office for the UK in Hull, and that's for offshore and onshore. But they've also just not opened another office up in Canada. So big expansion plans for GEV Wind Power. This Certek capital injection is going to help for sure, right? They've got a existing infrastructure for the GEV Wind Power group, and they're going to keep them all in place, and they're just going to continue to grow. So look to see some more things coming out of the GEV group with this injection of cash.
Yeah, because GEV, Wind Power Lab, and RigCom were part of the Bridges Fund, which was owned by who, Joel?
Well, Bridges was technically a minority shareholder in the GEV group, but that was Goldman Sachs money. Bridges was, right? So now we're going, Certek is Macquarie money, so Australian money being injected in.
Well, that does make a little bit of sense, though. Australia is going to be a huge renewable powerhouse. It already is. So it makes sense that Australian money would be involved in this because, there's going to be a lot more wind turbines and solar activity in Australia. It's going to pick up pretty well. So might as well grab a company early while you can and continue to grow it. The other thing that happened today was LM Wind Power selling a factory up in Poland to Vestas. Now, we've all talked internally about what is happening at LM Wind Power because they've had a number of staff reductions over the last year or so. And then they had the blade problem up in Canada. It does seem like a lot of the design activities are moving towards the United States from GE's point of view. And that leaves a lot of LM factories that are making blades for somebody else. Rosemary, when you were there, LM did make blades for almost everybody for quite a while. It looks like they still do, but now they're selling off the non-GE factories. Is that the plan?
I don't know what the plan is. Not inside anymore, so I don't have any insider info. But I did spend quite a lot of time actually at that factory in Glenelg, and it's definitely one of my favorite wind turbine blade manufacturing facilities that I ever visited. They get a lot done there. That's what I could say. The team there is amazing. The amount of stuff they can get through in one shift is like double what it is in some other factories. So I think, from that perspective, without knowing what Vestas paid for it, I think it's a good call if they get to keep the personnel. Good for Vestas. I was actually looking at some information recently, something unrelated, but I came across some research reports. Actually, they were academic papers, and it had they had gone through all Vestas' recent all of their annual reports and also all the other listed companies. So there's a few listed wind turbine manufacturers where they will give a breakdown, public information, a breakdown of how their money is spent and profits and that sort of thing. And they had this little chart that showed how much the different manufacturers that they looked at, how much they were spending on their staff and how much they were spending on research and development. And Vestas staff were paid far more than the other manufacturers that were on there.
That's geopolitical though, right? Like Siemens Gamesa had a lot of employees in Spain. They're cheaper employees, a cheaper labor force than it is in Denmark or Germany.
but also Vestas spent way more on research and development than the others, and that's like I have gotten that impression, because like a lot of what I do with my YouTube channel is looking at new kinds of things that people are doing, and time after time it was Vestas that had investigated this interesting thing. Like Vestas are the one that have tried a multi-rotor design out and like actually to the point of making a prototype and installing it. Vestas are the ones that have done the cable stayed tower and like again put it up. Like over and over again, there were these things where they maybe didn't even believe that there was an imminent commercial case for this technology, but they were doing it to learn and just improve their general knowledge and to also be ahead of the curve when things changed enough to make this new technology maybe make sense. Now they would have the information they needed to move fast on that. Well, that's my take on why that makes sense to them. So yeah, I am starting to get the impression, and I've never worked at Vestas I never even did a blade project for Vestas while I was working at LM, but that's definitely the impression that I'm getting, that they're kind of retaining more of the essence of the original Danish wind turbine companies than the others have more become globalized, Americanized, or Spainified, or like whatever from all the mergers that have happened. Their culture has been diluted, but Vestas I still see pushing the envelope. I mean, they haven't always been profitable, so is the strategy right or not? But then every Western manufacturer and every wind turbine manufacturer, no matter where they are in the world, including China, have had periods of unprofitability. That's for sure. So, I just think it's interesting that they're taking a real different approach.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Kind of Rosemary, before you said this cultural thing, right? Like they're Vestas, they're Denmark, they're the I guess you could have this argument between the Danish and the Dutch about who's wind power kind of first. There's a cultural thing there too, right? Like you have DTU right there. You have the university at Aarhus, I want to say it right.
Aarhus.
But you have all of these different facilities there that are also lending to that research, right? There's a lot of grant money that gets funneled through DTU. And if you look at those projects with those couple of universities there in Denmark, you see a lot of times Vestas tagged on those projects. There may be some other third-party companies, or a lot of it being sponsored by the university, but you see Vestas in a lot of those. So I think like you said, I think it's a cultural thing that the Danish still haven't, it's a good thing that they're doing what they're doing, in my opinion, but that they haven't become this larger globalified thing, right? Where they're still kind of sticking to their roots.
Yeah, I mean, I like it as an engineer, and I will say that a lot of my best ex-colleagues from LM have ended up at Vestas. So, I think that they do attract, like people who like to work on really interesting problems. But I also have been around long enough to know that the most interesting engineering problems are not always the most business savvy things to be working on. So that's why I don't want to comment about it, as a business strategy, or, suggest that, Vestas are definitely going to, remain dominant in the future, because a lot of the times like over engineering is a thing, and you can't be competitive if you have like a good engineering is really about doing the minimum that you need to make the product that succeeds in the market. Doing any more than that is very satisfying to an engineer, but it is not usually the smartest thing to do for making a profitable business. So
good engineering is knowing when to stop, which is the hardest part of engineering, because you never want to stop. You need to stop and make some money. Yeah. Don't let blade damage catch you off guard. Eelogic's ping sensors detect issues before they become expensive, time-consuming problems. From ice buildup and lightning strikes to pitch misalignment and internal blade cracks, Eelogic's ping has you covered. Their cutting-edge sensors are easy to install, giving you the power to stop damage before it's too late. Visit eelogix-ping.com and take control of your turbine's health today. So private equity giant Blackstone's infrastructure arm is reportedly in talks to acquire TXNM Energy, which is Texas and New Mexico. It's a utility company serving about 800,000 homes and businesses across the New Mexico, Texas area. The discussions are still fluid, so there's not a lot of details. However, it does seem like this is a play by Blackstone to maybe set up some data centers. And to get in line to get a data center set up, is really hard to do right now because you have to talk to an existing operator and get them to get approvals, and there's paperwork and there's applications. Once you buy a large energy producer, you can kind of control that a little bit. And there's reasons to do it because Texas and New Mexico, there's a lot of real estate there. Renewables are really easy to install. It makes this acquisition much more desirable, I think, just because of where it is. Now, TXNM was going to be acquired a couple months ago, Joel, by Avangrid, except that got stopped by the administration. It was about a year ago, right? Where that deal got canceled for, was it competitive reasons, or was it because it was Avangrid, which is not a U.S. entity? Is that what the deal was?
I don't remember exactly why it got canceled. I just know that it was a regulatory approval thing. It wasn't a due diligence problem or anything like that. It was just regulatory approval. But when I read this article, I thought immediately, have you guys ever seen the movie Inception?
No.
Yeah, you got to see Inception. What's wrong with you, Alan? Oh my God.
In the movie Inception, they have an issue where they're like, we need to convince the pilot of the plane to do this, and we need to convince the stewardesses to do this, and we need to convince this person to do this, and they have a really rich fellow with them, and they're like, how are we going to get past these problems? And he's like, I'll just buy the airline. So in the movie, the guy just buys the airline, and then he gets to do whatever he wants with the airplane and how they do their inception tricks, whatever. That's exactly what I thought about when I saw Blackstone do this, right? We want to get these data centers on. We want to do this. We want to do this. It's like, man, this is going to be difficult. We're going to have to convince all these people. We're going to have to do this regulatory approvals and get in line and queues. It's like, what if we just buy the power company? Okay, just do that, and you can do whatever you want. Like that makes sense. I think it's a genius thing, and I'm surprised that it's taken this long to do it. And there hasn't been some other larger players that have tried it. So I just saw a thing yesterday, a chart that said there's over 5,300 data centers in the United States right now. It's like 5,386 or something, which is way larger than I thought it was. And if you look at a global scale, we're way in front of the next person. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but everybody you talk to in the energy world is going, hey, more data centers, more data centers, more data centers. And it's, I listened to a podcast today. They're talking about wait until you see the next 6 months, what's going to happen with data centers. As you see Google searches declining for ChatGPT requests, right? It's going to be all data centers.
So EPRI is saying 48% of utilities nationwide are now receiving data center requests exceeding 1 gigawatt, with almost half facing requests that exceed 50% of the system peak demand. Wow. That's a lot of energy to be requesting.
So last summer, peak demand in ERCOT, and I'm going to talk Texas right now, right? Because this is where a lot of these data centers are going, because ERCOT's kind of the Wild West. ERCOT's peak demand last summer was 87 gigawatts at one point in time. They have it projected by, I think it was like 2031, that peak demand is going to be 213 gigawatts.
And is that based on population, or is that based on data center growth?
Data center growth. That's only 5 years away, 6 years away, and you're talking almost triple the demand.
Can we veer off just slightly on this discussion, which is the existing talk about the IRA bill and how they want to change it so it's going to be harder for renewable companies to apply for the tax credits and production tax credits and all these little nuances that add up to something much more massive. If the administration does that, and Congress passes it and whatever else happens, okay, fine. But on this data center demand, you cannot get enough gas turbines built to support that.
You can't order one and receive it before 2030.
Right. So what are we talking about?
You have to put solar and wind on the grid right now because it's the only energy generating facility that's timely enough to meet demand.
Right. Yeah. We just do not have the infrastructure right now in the United States or elsewhere, like a Siemens, who makes a lot of gas turbines, can't supply the demand that's about to happen. So the demand is going to get so dang high. You're going to go from 2029, 2030 order book to 2035 order book probably in the next 6 months, the way it sounds. What are they going to do?
Could you see a player that knows turbines but doesn't do gas-fired turbines coming in? I don't know who all the players are, right? I know GE sells them. I know a couple others, but like a steam like a Rolls Royce. Does Rolls Royce sell gas turbine power plant turbines? They know turbine technology. Couldn't why if you were them, wouldn't you look at this demand and go, we should start building these things?
Joel, to build a gas turbine is really difficult. It's like building a jet engine on steroids. And to make it something that's really reliable, it is not easy. That's why it takes so long to build these things.
It's not just a startup.
Well, yeah. What are you going to do? Build a second factory next door to the one you have and spend $1 billion to set this thing up? But you're not going to be able to make the first turbine for at least 5 or 6 years. That makes zero sense because all of a sudden, if the data center compute goes away, like some software engineer figures out how to do this a lot with less power, basically a lot less power to do it, then poof, all their order book disappears. And all that money they spent on a factory disappears. And no one's willing to take that risk. So who steps in the middle of this besides wind and solar and some batteries?
Wind, solar, batteries.
Right. That's the fastest way to get power onto the grid, even if it's disconnected from the main grid, right?
Even if you go geothermal, you still need turbines.
You still need turbines. Turbines are not quick to make.
And you can't build a nuclear plant in about 10 years.
No. So Rosemary, what are we doing? And here's my thought this morning. I woke up this morning like, this is a huge problem. What are we going to do? My first thought was like, well, everybody's going to go to Australia because the power is plentiful and it's only a data cable to America. That's what'll happen. Rosemary?
I don't think data centers. I think data centers is primarily a US problem, and then there'll be a few, and not even like it's localized within the US as well. People aren't just like people think with this, data center growth that it's like everyone's going to worry about it, but you need data centers near where the tech companies, the AI companies are, because they don't, they can't be located on the other side of the world from where their data center is if they're going to be, running all these learning models. And then you need them near population centers as well for, so that they have them close by. I think the biggest thing with data centers that's going to be different to what everybody's panicking about is that it is not going to be the demand people are predicting is not going to come true to anything like the extent that what has been predicted. I think it will grow, and it will grow a lot, but the growth that people are predicted is implausible for a start to actually achieve it. But I think also, like, if you look back through history, I mean, people always predict, that you get a big amount of growth early on and people don't really know what the, the size of the exponent is. And so when they project out into the future, you can get things wildly wrong. And we have a history of, look back through the predicted energy use of all sorts of new technologies over the decades or, centuries, then you'll see predictions that were just crazy in hindsight. We're really early in the AI thing, so algorithms are going to be refined, chip designs are going to be refined, even, like everything else around data centers is going to be refined. Maybe quantum computing is going to make a difference in a few years, like maybe something that hasn't been invented yet. Like 5 years ago, people didn't think AI would be doing what it is today. There'll be some other technology in 5 years that's doing something that we couldn't foresee. So I think that it's more likely that the unexpected technology developments are on the side of bringing down the amount of power.
Yeah, but the way that tends to go in industry is once you're on a pathway, there's very little that's going to deter you off that pathway. So even if there are significant improvements, you'll see the main path still be followed. And that's going to be the trouble with these AI and data centers, is that they're going to project out, they're going to get their mindset about doing it a certain way, and they're going to go. And if you talk about saving 10% here or there, they're like, if it's going to take 10 more weeks to get that done, we're not going to do it. We're going to continue down this pathway.
No, but they're doing it all the time. I heard about a data center. It was designed and, planned for a certain amount of compute, and then the chip designs improved and they totally changed it. And so now it's the same power, but it processes much more. And we're going to see a lot of that, I think.
I think the chat GPT usage and the AI usage is relatively low. And I know us engineers like to use those services because we like the new tech and we want to be involved and get our fingers in it and see what it's all about. I think the vast majority of humanity really hasn't touched it yet. When they do, it's going to go crazy.
Did you see that Google's Alphabet stock when they just released it was an earnings report, but they released and this is the first time that their number of search engine entries, whatever, requests dropped. And it's because and their stock dropped by 10% that day that happened.
Yeah.
Like that's and like you said, people that are in the know are I use it all day long, right? My partner uses it all day long, but the general populace hasn't gotten into it yet. But once they do, it's so much better than Google. So much better than Google. Like you don't have to know how to Google things anymore. You could just like ask a question like you're talking to a person and it just gives you the answer.
Right. It's much more interactive, human interactive interface than what Google ever was. And you still have to have little tricks to get Google to give you the right answer at times. This is much more intuitive. And if you think about your phone and how you try to Google things on your phone, that interface is terrible. Absolutely terrible. It's been terrible for 5+ years. This AI interface, all of them, Perplexity is the one that I like at the minute, is really simple. It's like asking somebody a question, like asking a librarian in the old days. Where can I find this information? Tell me what's going on. And poof, there it is. And it provides justification, rationale behind it, all those kind of things you like to have as an engineer. But I do think the growth of this, if it is as powerful as it is today, the growth is going to be phenomenal. And the power usage is going to be nuts.
But I'm not sure that you're aware of how much growth is baked into the forecast currently. I've just brought up an article that Michael Liebreich wrote on Bloomberg NEF about AI. And it's interesting there because he goes through the economics of it and he draws on some questions that a guy, David Kahn, made from Sequoia Capital, that David Kahn says that to justify the capital expenditures applied by NVIDIA's near-term revenue pipeline, they would need to generate annual revenue from AI services of $200 billion. And then with their new updated NVIDIA sales forecast soaring, it's been updated to $600 billion. And that is, like half of the aggregate revenue of Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, and Google parent Alpha. So if you assume 600 billions will be, it'll be the world's 100 million wealthiest people, and that's $6,000 a year. And then, obviously you can go a bit further down, but it's not impossible, but it's also, that is a massive amount of growth that is already factored into that pipeline. So I just think it's more evidence that is that is a pretty optimistic take on, immense growth, and that it's far more likely we're going to see less growth now. I still think we're going to see crazy growth, but I think that the current pipeline, that the current investments, not investments, but the current plans for growth of companies like NVIDIA, they don't just factor in incredible growth. It's like incredible squared, incredible cubed growth that's factored into their pipeline, and it is going to scale back again. That I don't think anyone can know, but that's I really think that's the most likely thing to happen.
Building chips and building power plants are two wildly different things in terms of the time it takes to do it. Building a gigawatt of energy production takes time. Building another chip is just clunk, there's another one. It doesn't take that much time. So I think the ability to create the chips is going to far exceed the ability to power them.
Yeah, and that's why you see like that project I talked about where they, the chip capability changed so much in between when they started the project and by the time they went to actually put the chips inside the building. You still see the power stayed the same, but just the compute increased. So yeah, I think you're right.
I still think that the good play is investing in a cable lay vessel. I'm telling you, the SF uptime cable lay vessel.
This is my wild conspiracy theory at the moment, is that Elon, with his satellite network, SpaceX and Starlink and all that, allows you to put an AI center anywhere on the planet that it is cheap to power with.
A handful of geostationary satellites and if you devote them to one data center or to a family of data centers somewhere, that has to be cheaper than laying cables across the ocean.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Elon's going to buy the center of Australia, lay out solar panels.
Too hot. It's got to go somewhere cold. I'm talking Canada, Greenland.
Greenland. There you go. There's a perfect conspiracy case right there, Joel. You hit all the triggers at one time. Well, we're not going to solve this week, but it is an important issue, and it is coming up a lot. And I know that it is not going to stop the discussion. It is ramping up, and there's a lot of energy being spent trying to figure out, can we even solve this problem? What's happening with the IRA bill, or the potential changes to the IRA bill, can aggravate this and make it a lot harder. Be prepared. Very interesting times. Joel, Rosemary, another great episode.
And unsupervised today. I often wonder if these ones where we don't have producer Claire here, reining us in, do we lose subscribers on these episodes? Or are people, like really attracted to our tell it like it is kind of rambling style on these ones?
Yeah, stay tuned. And we'll see you all here next week on the Uptime Wind Energy Podcast.